obvious can it get from this? Clark hasn't even received the ball yet, and Carter ran up to her just to knock her to the ground. If this move wasn't intentional, I don't know what is. There is an immense amount of jealousy towards Clark, and it's truly unfortunate that media personnel are so quick to discredit her and hate on her because Clark is the driving force to the WNBA's skyrocketing exposure this.
During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player, so it's all good.
What happens when a league that's desperate for respect decides its biggest threat isn't bad officiating, isn't reckless play on the court, but a player daring to say the quiet part out loud? That's the storm Sophie Cunningham walked into. And the fallout? It's turning into one of the most revealing battles in modern sports, because it exposes a league that seems more committed to silencing voices than fixing problems that everyone can see with their own eyes. At first glance, it looks simple. A player complains, a league fines her. End of story. That's the expectation. Athletes grumble all the time, refs take heat, and usually it blows over. But the reality in Sophie's case is so much bigger and so much darker than anyone anticipated. Because the punishment didn't kill the story. It ignited it. It ripped open a conversation the WNBA has spent years trying to bury under polished marketing and scripted interviews. Let's rewind to the moment it all started. Picture Sophie Cunningham scrolling TikTok after another frustrating game. Calls missed left and right, dangerous hits ignored, and a league that acts like it doesn't notice. Instead of keeping her frustration bottled up, she does what millions of fans do every single day. She posts. But unlike your average fan ranting into the void, Sophie's words carried weight. She didn't dress them up or soften the blow. She called the officials exactly what she thought they were. Useless. 6 letters, 1 word, and suddenly she wasn't just a player venting online. She was a target. Within hours, the WNBA came. Down with a fine, $500 for 1 word. Now here's the twist. Most players would have backed down at that point. Issue a lukewarm apology, play the PR game, and move on. But Sophie didn't retreat. She went on her podcast
Sophie
and
Cunningham.
did the one thing
man.
the WNBA hoped she wouldn't. She doubled
this
down.
This victory,
not only defending her comments, but
big,
revealing what the league desperately wanted to keep in the shadows.
Game,
that players across the board have been fed up with officiating for years.
The first half.
The frustration wasn't unique to her.
For the Indiana Fever
she just had the
Sophie
courage
Cunningham has been
to say it out loud.
Been the glue of
the league's
this team
response,
since Caitlin
brutal. Another fine. This time $1,500 more, bringing her tab to $2,000. But instead of shutting her up, the punishment elevated her. Suddenly, Sophie wasn't just a player with a complaint. She was a martyr. Social media lit up. Hashtags exploded. Fans who had been biting their tongues finally had a rallying point. And that's where expectation and reality split wide open. The league expected silence. Reality gave them a movement. Here's the second layer of the story, and it's even more damning. Fans couldn't help but notice the hypocrisy. While Sophie was being hammered for daring to criticize refs, other players, Caitlin Clark chief among them, have been on the receiving end of brutal cheap shots for 2 seasons straight. Dangerous fouls, borderline assaults on the court, and yet somehow those incidents rarely, if ever, resulted in fines or serious consequences. The contrast was impossible to ignore. A player uses her voice, punished. A player gets leveled on the court, crickets. And fans weren't just angry. They mobilized. GoFundMe campaigns to cover Sophie's fines hit their goals in hours. Petitions demanding accountability for officiating racked up signatures by the thousands. What should have been a minor slap on the wrist became a grassroots rebellion. And here's the irony. The WNBA tried to snuff out criticism, but in the process they amplified it louder than Sophie ever could have on her own. That's the Streisand effect in full swing. Try to hide something, and you shine a spotlight on it instead. To see how unusual this is, you only need to look across the fence at the NBA. Players like Draymond Green built their reputations on speaking out. Charles Barkley became a cultural icon not just because he was great, but because he was unfiltered, unafraid to call things as he saw them. And fans loved it. Outspoken honesty isn't punished there. It's celebrated as part of the game's identity. But in the WNBA, Sophie dared to criticize refs, and a league official literally pulled her aside in front of her teammates to warn her. They're going to fine you again. Not just a warning, a threat. Think about what that does to a culture. Instead of open dialogue, you get silence. Instead of accountability, you get fear. Instead of trust, you get suspicion. And that's the loop Sophie's story drags into the light. Poor officiating doesn't just ruin a game. It rots the foundation of a league. Fans leave the arena asking if the contest was even fair. Players walk off the court bottling up resentment. Trust, the most valuable currency in sports, starts evaporating. And once it's gone, no amount of marketing slogans can buy it back. But here's where it gets cinematic. Imagine Caitlin Clark, the league's brightest star, taking cheap shot after cheap shot. Marina Mabrey blindsides her. DJ Carrington nearly takes out her eye. Plays that would spark ejections and suspensions in the NBA go largely unpunished. Meanwhile, Sophie calls refs useless, and suddenly the league becomes obsessed with discipline. It's like watching someone ignore a house fire while screaming at a neighbor for leaving their recycling bin out. The priorities are so upside down, it feels surreal, and fans notice. That's why this isn't just Sophie's battle anymore. It's about the soul of the league. Are you a league that values honesty, toughness, and accountability? Or are you a league that values silence, obedience, and control? Right now, the WNBA is answering that question with fines and intimidation, and fans don't like the answer. Even worse, this all unfolded at the exact moment national media began raising bigger questions. The Wall Street Journal published a piece hinting at possible civil rights violations involving Caitlin Clark, and suddenly the WNBA is under a microscope. Every fine, every warning, every heavy-handed attempt to control player speech now looks less like discipline and more like a culture of suppression. And here's the kicker. Sophie's words weren't disrespectful. She wasn't hurling insults at individuals. She acknowledged the job is hard. She even gave credit to the refs who get it right. Her only crime was honesty, and the WNBA's overreaction made her honesty go viral. They turned her into a symbol. Into the rallying cry for fans who are sick of being treated like they don't see what's happening right in front of them. This is the expectation versus reality gap in its purest form. Expectation. A fine silences the problem. Reality. The fine magnifies the problem 100 times bigger. Expectation. Control the narrative. Reality. Lose control of the narrative completely. So now the league faces a choice. Double down again, or finally listen. Because Sophie Cunningham may have started this battle with a single TikTok post, but the movement it unleashed is bigger than her, bigger than one player, bigger even than officiating itself. It's about whether the WNBA wants to grow into a league where fans and players feel heard, or whether it wants to stay trapped in a cycle where dissent is punished and problems fester until they explode. And make no mistake, the basketball world is watching. The next move the WNBA makes will decide whether this is remembered as the start of real change or just another tragic example of a league that chose control over growth. Because the truth is, Sophie didn't just complain. She cracked open the door to a conversation the WNBA has been terrified of having. And once that door is open, you can't close it again. So here's the question. Will the league finally fix the fire in its house, or keep obsessing over coasters while the walls burn down? And if you're still here, still listening, then you're part of this story too. Because every signature, every hashtag, every voice that refuses to be silenced adds weight to the movement Sophie accidentally started. The WNBA can fine a player, but it can't find the truth. And the truth is already out there, louder than ever. Now let me leave you with this. What happens next depends on how much people care. Because sports don't change because of press releases. They change because players speak up and fans refuse to shut up. If you've ever wanted to see women's basketball treated with the same respect as men's, then don't just watch this unfold. Be part of it. Because whether the league listens or not, the conversation has already begun, and Sophie Cunningham made sure it's one they can't ignore.